Okay, so you. So we had a little bit of a discussion about the design for Zen, and actually went through a couple iterations. Thought we had what we wanted, and then found some reference material and figured out that we had a little better idea. So here's what happens. So she's captured, and she's of course protesting. And then all of a sudden, while she's protesting, which is kind of like if you just look only at Akari here, you know, she's going to be continuing to rant and rave, and then all of a sudden behind, you're going to see these fingers grab around their heads, which causes them to react in surprise. And then coconuts, boom, tweet, tweet, tweet. And I need to cut and paste Zen back into these other frames. And then these guys fall. Then she turns around. Her attention is on them. Obviously, we're very sketchy at this point. I'm just doing sticks and balls basically to get the action blocked in. And then she realizes, ah! And so she grabs her dress and then complains, hey, doesn't anybody ever knock around here? And then, well, that's what's in the beat list. Something to that effect is. So anyway, so that's that. Cool. So given that we have this, I think what we need to do, actually I should probably switch to the front view. This makes it a little easier to keep things under control. So I'm going to grab this, and let's do it up proper by erasing these erroneous bits. Okay, and what I'm going to do is let's try pasting him in first here. Okay, so what I think is let's put him like that. Okay, so I'm going to actually move this up and do a little erasure. So all I want is his head and neck. I want to keep this as clean as possible for compositional purposes. Alright, so with that, so I'm going to just put my mouse right where his head would be and go. Basically that's kind of what we're looking at. So now let's hit Control C again so I can paste this in. Okay, and right there, if we're going to be picky, there'd be a bit of a reaction on his part. And then here, I'm going to say this would be smaller, rotated around, and lower. It's kind of funny how easily he cracks these guys' skulls. Now, once we go back to the camera view, we can see what. Now, this is kind of important. On this shot, this needs to be silhouette. He needs to be showing up out of the darkness. He's coming from behind. And frankly, I would say until such a time as we are prepared to identify him, I think we leave him as the mysterious giant in the background. So I'm going to go ahead and follow that through. So yeah, we have this irresistible force appear out of nowhere. And now we can let his face, I'm not sure how I'm going to pull that off. I'm going to sort of have to illuminate it. Okay, so oh, we just need an extra frame in here where she looks at him and softens, and then she goes, "Whoa!" So yeah, there's just one action missing here.
Will there be one more when she talks, in other words, being cocky towards, and then you realize something in trouble now. Before she realizes that it's
So she would react happily or relief to Zen, then turn cocky, then realize, wait a second, I'm losing my dress.
pretty much.
Okay, got it. Got it. Okay, so that's fine. So we'll grab these two keyframes, move those suckers downstream, and let's duplicate it here and here. And then let's alright, let's just erase her head. Okay, and her hands would relax. I'm gonna give her hanging hands for this shot because of the idea that she is experiencing feelings of relief. Okay, so this is relief. I'm not going to draw it right at the moment. I want to get it blocked in first. Alright, and then okay, if we're going to do that, then what would happen is the following. Hello. Okay. Rotate and select all so that okay. So this is what was just mentioned, which is cocky. And I think the way to do this, actually the way to play this is to go like this. Now honestly, if she's turning her attention, if she's already turned around, which she would have, then her attention is essentially on the guys that fell. So, ha ha ha, you're in for it now. It'd be more like serves you right would basically be the thought there. And then you would have this reaction. And I think what will make that play is if we add one more extra keyframe here to just to tell the story more thoroughly. So I'm going to go like this, and then I'm going to take her head, and what I'm going to do is split her attention. Okay. Between the two that are laying on the floor. So with that, alright, so relief. Okay. And just a cartoon to indicate that. Then here, what you'd have is this followed by this. And that would cause her shift in attention from this guy to this guy would result in oopsie poo. Now she realizes she has a problem, and geez, doesn't anyone ever knock around here? And of course Zen is the unwitting victim of the situation. It is 9:37. Let us recap. I plan to be working on animation today for probably 3 hours. That's kind of the goal today. So I'm cranking away. I think I started at, I don't know, must have been 8 o'clock. Maybe it was 7:30. No, it was probably 8. So we're about halfway through. So continuing from where we left off, she had been chewing out the ninja that fell. If you're new to the story, what happened was she's surrounded by these bad guys. Mr. Big has left the room. She grabs her weapon, which she had just dropped. She was basically warned, under the circumstances, maybe you want to drop your weapon, and the Mr. Big kind of implies that something was done to Zen. She thinks Zen's in danger. She relinquishes her weapon. Mr. Big leaves the room, and basically it's like, kill her, kind of thing. And so now the ninja's on this side of her. So she's got 3 on one side and 2 on the other. She gives a little warning shot. And then this guy goes for it, but he gets kicked. Her dress rips. So she reacts to that. Sorry, I gotta scroll down a bit here. So and that would be, whoa. Okay, so now he decides to go for the gusto. He's the most buffoonish of the ninjas. He gets kicked in the jewels. And then promptly, if you can believe it, falls out the window while ninja number 1 takes a stab and manages to slice her strap, at which point she's chewing him out for essentially for behaving dishonorably, you might say. And he concedes that yes, as a ninja, it is his duty to fight honorably. So they're basically having a little chew out session, and all of a sudden they hear a noise, and if you can believe it, the guy that fell out the window manages to crawl back in. Well, meanwhile, while that has everyone's attention, the ninja that looks like Spider-Man is sneaking up behind her, and he sees that going on, and boom, he gets her, and now, whatever happened to fighting honorably. I don't even know what he's saying to her here, and so she's trying to get away, but then all of a sudden, a shadow appears behind these guys. Boom. Oh, thank goodness you showed up, Zen. Ha! Serves you guys right. Now you're in trouble, because she knows Zen's a tough cookie. But then she realizes, ah! So, that brings us up to date. I need to go ahead and get Akari drawn in here now. But I have to say, I'm pretty happy with the storytelling here. Can't complain too much. So now I'm going to take a few moments and draw Akari more proper. Ignore that man in the corner who's making stupid faces whenever he draws characters. Okay. What I have to do here is give her wide-eyed a wide-eyed reaction, okay, but then go back in and tighten this up so that the shape of her eyes is consistent with the design that was determined for her, which is essentially trapezoidal. Okay, and one thing with two things with her actually. One being the bangs almost always want to ride. I always draw them too high. Almost always. So I always have to go in and fix them. Okay. Now, for our purposes, I wonder if maybe, since I tend to draw her eyes too high, I wonder if we actually just bring her chin up, that would fix it, and it looks like it does. Okay, so that's better. Not saying that anyone watching this necessarily would like her look better, but that's not the point. The point is this is the design of the character, so I gotta make her look like her. When you are the less accomplished artist / animator that I have been in much of the past, there's a temptation to just draw what looks cool at the time, and you wind up drawing characters who never actually look consistent. You know, this is a real danger. And that's because there's no reason to discipline yourself to draw the character correctly time after time after time. But if you're seriously going to try to produce a show, well, it becomes kind of important that your characters have a consistent look. Okay? And these big Tinkerbell eyes are not something that she has very often. This is only a reaction shot. It's not, you would never hold because you would never hold on that because her actual eye shape is essentially this, not, you know, this. Right. Okay. Zoom out. Okay. Hit the thumb. Blah, 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 blah. There's the meat of her hands, and obviously, well, maybe it's not obvious, but her hand would be essentially in silhouette, and frankly, it's too big. I like that better. Okay. I think, I'm debating with myself, do I go ahead and finish these pencils, or I guess I probably should, just for the doggone practice. And then now I'm kind of, when I get in the zone drawing, it becomes a matter of, you know, there are lines, contours that I see in my mind. So usually if I just put a little indication of it in there, all of a sudden now I see the whole thing, you know. As I like to often say, work from the known to the unknown. Okay. Okay, that is probably okie dokie. Maybe, let's see, if that's going to be her breast right there, then I guess we should probably let this hang far enough that it's obvious that it's there, right? Okay. Okay, and I'm gonna overrule on the whole eyes thing. I think that the way I did it here is probably a bit ridiculous, and we need to actually adhere more closely to the standard design for her eyes. Okay. Which may result in the, yeah, definitely, the discovery that the eyes are too high on the head, which often happens with her, as I mentioned earlier. It's just my propensity to I guess I don't really want her to be cross-eyed in this shot, do I? Alright, I'm going to switch to the front view instead of the camera view so that I can flip it. Yeah, and by flipping it, I immediately saw the problem. And I'd probably make some adjustments here to compensate for that little slight change in position, but I'm hitting the 9 key on the numpad. And then what I'm going to do is zoom way in here, because the way the eraser works in Blender, if you zoom in, effectively the eraser is smaller. So instead of resizing the eraser, I'm just zooming in to get the same result. And actually, that's if her pupil's going to be down here, so she's quite obviously looking down. Yeah, that's better. Okay, and of course she's got sort of this eyelash indication. And the bangs. And again, the Kara, you must never forget the ponytails. Very important part of her costume. Costuming, I guess you'd say. Okay, so given that, so this is one of the things about Blender that's kind of cool, is the essentially infinite canvas, and I can zoom in, and even though this is actually a really wide shot, as you can see, you can zoom way the heck in there to work out the details. All right, here, same thing. And at this point, I've kind of lost track of the camera. I don't know if I'm actually drawing outside of what the camera could see at this point. I may well be, but that's okay. I'm moving quickly, and the idea is to just firm up the character. So I kind of got that in there already. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. At least that way I'm not forgetting her pigtails. Okay, and one thing I do want to do is, since I'm doing this on the next drawing, I'm just going to rotate it. Because I actually think what we would really have is a looping animation with the crosses on his eyes, just kind of either rotating or, you know, that kind of a thing. You see the same thing with Ninja number 5 over here. Oh, gotta have a drink of my coffee. So, well, when it comes to animation, this is the fun part. I mean, it's probably the most challenging part, and it's the most fun part, because you have to get the designs right, you got to get the characterizations right, you got to get the pacing right. So there's all kinds of cool challenges. I love the position of these ninjas' hands, the way they sort of fall limp to the floor. I think that's pretty cool. So I'm going to put in the indication here of the bottom of his feet. And here's Akari's knees. So, and a lot of times that's what it is, man. You're just going through, and we're, again, working from the known to the unknown. What I'm doing is I'm saying, well, I know where her knees are. And once I know where her knees are, that tells me kind of the contour of her leg. I know she's going to have her foot has to be anchored there. And so she's going to have her little slippers that she wears, which tells me that that's kind of where the contour of her calf would be. Now we have a little bit of a coincidence right here that's not really acceptable. Those sorts of, I've mentioned that in the past, those sorts of coincidences are not really allowed. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that like so. And we'll kind of make it essentially a silhouette rendition of his, which is okay because Mr. Spider-Man guy here, his costume's all basically black anyway. I mean, he's all about being a silhouette. Okay, so that's working, kind of. The only thing that's not working is his chin should really be tucked down, and then his chest is kind of, you know, like that. So I'm actually putting those lines in there just as an indication of the anatomy, not because it's, I mean, because that's really just going to be filled in dark. Okay. Okay. Zooming in here a little bit. Okay, and her elbow's going to be there. Okay, well, where's her hand going to be? Let's go there. Okay, elbow. Slight curvature there. Cool. Okay, dress, strap. Obviously no strap on that side. So I'm going to give that slight indication that her dress might be sinking a little bit. I say dress, it's a nightgown, obviously. But you knew that. Okay. So then, well, if she had a finger going there, and here's the basic concept of a hand, what we would probably have is just a finger cluster and sort of the meat of her palm right there. Super detail here is not important because this is, again, one of those little sequences that's going to go by pretty fast. But I'm not happy with this. I'm going to go ahead and shrink my eraser. That's probably more what I want. So this is going to be essentially in silhouette. Okay. Same thing here. So I find myself, what I do is I tend to draw the meat of the palm, and then there's a sort of a triangular concept that comes out away from that for the thumb. And then usually the easiest way to draw fingers is to actually just draw lines that indicate one side of the finger and then connect them up. In this case, I'm not at all happy with the pose. Not happy with the pose. Because she would be, I'm just thinking out loud here. I could, I can feel it in my brain that this is something I'm probably going to change my mind about. But my basic thing I'm thinking right now is that she's been held captive here for a bit. She would be sort of flailing to re-experience her freedom. So that's why I'm drawing the hands out sort of like that. Okay, and obviously here we don't see her hands, okay? So then we have this pose. Yeah, I mean, I can live with that. I think that's okay. Relief. Serves you right. And oh my gosh, I don't have my dress on. Okay. With that, that's been 30 minutes. Do I want to continue at this point, or do I want to take a little break? I guess I'm going to continue, I think. Okay. I'll continue. One wonders if perhaps this is slightly long. Well, that would be clearly too short, and that would be clearly too big. Feels about there would be more apropos. Yeah, think so. Okay. So now I'm just going to jump around in my keys and sort of fix things as usual, working from the known to the unknown. Okay, I'm just going to check here. Meh. I guess the front part, I guess the front part's a little more poofy. So let's make it a little more poofy. Just a little more poofy. Alright. Bigger pupils there, I would say. So obviously the color is screwy. But that's okay, because I know I'm going to remember that when it comes time to tighten it up and ink it, which is definitely not going to be happening in Blender. Okay, here we go. So, boom, boom. Sometimes you just gotta move fast. Connect that up. Possibly a bit of curve to it. That's fine. Boom, boom, boom. A little bit of, I guess you'd say boobage there. And point. Alright. Now, the question becomes, how do you indicate relief? I'm going to flip the canvas. I hate to do this. I really should be, frankly, better at my job and not need to flip the canvas, but I'm going to say sometimes it just makes sense to flip it. Well, of course it also, okay, I got to double check actually. The mild dyslexia is kicking in, and it seems to me that the hair always tilts somewhat to the left when it's relaxed. Like right there she's in motion, so that doesn't count. But if we zip in here, we see it's tilted to the left. Okay, so cool. Alright, so D key, D for draw. Every other application uses the B key for brush. So I guess in Blender's thinking about what you want to do, where most programs are thinking about what you want to use. Okay, so I think there's the key to the look of relief, and I think that would she be smiling? Let's flip it again. Well, the other thing is, when you flip it, it does, look at this, I'm making faces. It does let you check the balance of your drawing. You need to flip your canvas frequently. I just don't like to flip it so that I can cheat in the sense that, say, well, I can't draw it in this orientation, but I can draw it in this orientation because I'm right-handed, and so then flip the canvas to make the drawing easier. I don't really like to do that. I don't want to flip the canvas to make the drawing easier. I want to flip the canvas to check my work. Okay, a little bit more floof. A little bit more floof. Okay, and by the way, I really need to save my work. I've been going for like an hour and a half here, and that would suck if Blender crashed and then I've lost all of this, right? It's happened before. Now, the good thing is Blender almost never crashes. But, you know, as soon as you say that, it actually happened a couple days ago. So, okay, so I'm going to call that the look of relief. Right? Okay, cool. I like that. I'm quite satisfied, actually, with that. I think it conveys what I'm trying to convey. And now we need to, boom. Okay, her ears would ride slightly higher on her head, and she would have curvature here instead of the squared off jaw, because we're doing a little bit of a 3/4 view. Okay. And since she's kind of back in ranting and raving mode, I'm using a more kind of an anime cartoony approach to her mouth. Okay, so now the question is, what about the eyes? Well, let's do them now. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. I'm gonna go like that, and I am gonna flip my canvas just to check my balance, not to make it easier to draw. Not bad, not bad. Okay, so this would be here. So it seems like getting her eyes in the right position seems to be largely a function of getting the pupils where they need to be. Right now we're in the midst of a bunch of shots that require her to be looking very firmly in a certain direction. So boom, boom, boom. And alright. Now this is a little sketchy. It's a little sketchy. But let's keep going with it. Maybe let's go ahead and redo the eyes. I'm gonna go ahead and redo them. I'm gonna give myself some guides here. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, that's better, I think. Now we can go simpler. Because remember, also looking over here at the camera view, this is not a super tight close-up. So yeah, it definitely helps to flip it and just keep getting that fresh perspective. Okay, so then for her, she's got those big pretty irises. And I don't like that expression. I think that in this case, I think I should give her a little longer chin. Okay, now the question becomes, as it often does, are her eyes too high? Yep. Okay. So now that puts this barrette-ish thing here. Puts her whole, and as I said earlier, the ears are going to ride higher because we're kind of looking down on her now. Okay. Don't quite like that. Okay. So now the question becomes, can I copy or flip it? Yeah. Basically, actually, okay, I see something that bugs me a little bit. I sort of got my orientation wrong here. So that's okay. Yeah, what I tend to do is give more attention to the stuff that I'm not sure I'm going to be able to nail correctly, you know, in one try sort of thing. So Control C. Let's go here. Let's just erase the daylights out of this. And then Control V. And then what I want to do is just take this, rotate it a little bit. Okay. And then we're going to go in here and make like that. And just for fun, we'll just give her a different ranting and raving mouth for this shot. I'm not totally happy with that, but I'm going to leave it anyway for the moment. And then, of course, that's when she realizes, yikes, my goodies are about to drop out for all to see, which for a brief shining moment there she forgot, since there was a moment of relief when Zen showed up. Okay. I feel like I want to go to the camera view and do a slight recap. Okay, one thing that's definitely problematic here is that. And probably we should probably adjust that one as well. Let's see. I think that's okay. Now remember, this is a pretty wide shot, so sort of get away with murder, but okay. So let's just review. Rant and rave, rant and rave. Then all of a sudden, okay, I know what I want to do here. I want to duplicate that one. So I'm going to grab that so I can see where I'm located. And I'm going to hit Control, grab all these keys. Remember, I always like to talk about building out. Okay, so I'm going to move this here and then go back to this one, and so I can have that, and then here I want to once again shrink this down, pull it back to here, so that we get the sense that he is coming into the scene. Right? Okay, so you know, obviously we're talking about, this is some animation that fairly demands, you know, a lot of in-betweens, I think. You know, you could have animation that goes like this. You know, that's the only change. But really, the way this scene is shaping up, it seems to me that it's gonna demand a little bit more tweening in order to make it, tell the story as well as we want to tell it. I've been thinking for a while, by the way, that that shot needs to be eliminated. And I actually think what really needs to happen is a couple of them need to be reversed. So, since we don't have room go. Okay, so now we're going to take this, move it there, take this, move it there. So it gets her attention. There he is. So we've got 3 shots here. So I think we should actually dump this to there. And then pack this back together. And save our work. Okay, so she's chewing him out. There's a noise. Turns. And there he is. So that way we have this. And it would appear that the attention is engaged. So the question one would ask is, why would she allow that? Why would she allow this guy to crawl back in? Well, it's kind of only justified by the fact that this whole conversation that happens between here and here is all about honor and having a fair fight. So I can suspend my disbelief and say that she's actually going to allow herself to be distracted for that brief moment, and it's going to go pretty fast. We're talking about a couple seconds here at the most, which buys us time for this guy to sneak up, which he sees happening, and then boom, she's captured, and then protesting, and now they're all like, ha ha, so much for a fair fight. You were dumb enough to let us do this. The exact dialogue isn't worked out. I'm very comfortable that we're going to make it play very smoothly and nicely. But now she's caught a break because Zen showed up. Okay, so basically at this point, I think what I'll do is tighten up a little bit of the anatomy here, and then we're going to call it good for the moment. Okay, remember elbows are not a point, actually. They're a mass. Same with knees. So that's going to have to be, because you got to make room for this volume of the forearm to, fit in there, basically. So, and then when you, again, from the known to the unknown, if you put this bone in there, this edge of the arm, you say this is where her hand is, then that tells you where the forearm needs to be. One thing clues you into another. And this is actually kind of an interesting pose, because actually I think this elbow should be back further, because we're kind of looking back slightly into space at her. So you would kind of have something more like that going on. And you wouldn't really see her other hand because it'd be blocked by her body. Now, this is not perfect, I will readily admit, but that feels pretty good. Now, I can look at it in the front view and flip it to double check. So basically, she's got a little too much bicep going on for sure. Boom, boom, boom. That feels pretty good. I mean, it's supposed to be a real, I can't get back far enough here to show you, but it's supposed to be a pose that's going to read very clearly in silhouette. So that's fine. And you can just sort of see this tude coming through in her spine line. Okay, so back to the camera view. And for our purposes, since the only thing that really changed was her head position, I'm going to go Control C, go here, and let's just make a big ass eraser. And sorry for my my Z-rated language there. Okay. Control C, Control V. Okay, so that's fine. That gives me that, and then now I've progressed to this point, which, golly, I might as well finish up because let's see, we're gonna have to split. We got a snow delay today, so we don't have to go to school till 10:40. So we got a little bit of time. So I'm thinking, you know what? I'm gonna finish this sequence up. And so it's basically going to be pretty close to being ready to ink. So how are we going to accomplish that? Well, one way is by moving somewhat quickly. So I'm going to put her hand in silhouette here in the foreground. Boom, boom, boom. It's probably too big, but that's okay for our purposes right now. Okay, let's put in the meat of her hand. Yada, yada, yada. There's the bosom. The thing about this that's going to be challenging is going to be her eyes, as usual. I actually think I should do an anime idiom here. And not try to draw her eyes accurately for this particular shot, because they're going to go, they're going to pop open. And essentially we can steal these eyes from this shot, basically just flip them. And then, and I'm not even going to put that keyframe in there. Okay, so now we got this, which is a little on the floofy side. We'll put a little bit of action up there. Eyes are, or ears are still riding a little bit high. Okay, and we need to get a little bit of secondary action right here. So the ponytail thingy dingy really would be more like this in this action. And this is again an example where we're sort of giving ourselves more work to do, because if you're going to show that, now there's more keyframes you have to animate to properly show that settling back down to where it's going to be. However, the good news is this keyframe is pretty close to right. Let's go to the front view, zoom in and flip it, and so we can just see a couple things that need to be fixed. Boom, boom, boom. Flip that. Okay, we'll put in this slight indication of the eyebrow things, but basically what we really want is for it to be very much an anime moment that's going to last quite literally like half a second, if that, and then her eyes will snap back into their normal look. But that at least gives us the concept of what's happening. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and draw her eyes properly to see if the action plays, and if it does, we're going to leave them in their kind of normal state. You can see up here in the corner what the scale of the drawing is. So it is not high detail at all. And I actually want it to be a little bit like that. Okay, which is hard to make it play because of her hair, frankly. Her hair covers up some of the opportunity to express the action, or the expression, I guess I should say. Okay. I'm going to grab this, and I want to zoom way in, actually. And see what we can do with this. Boom. Okay. Okay, so this could actually come back. This is too much, but it's the basic concept's okay. All right. Okay, yeah, that's fine. So boom, 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 boom. So this action looks pretty good. And we're gonna kind of do a little bit of a thingy dingy with the fingers. You know, they're in motion anyway. I mean, you know, come on. This is kind of zipping by pretty fast here, folks. Okay. I'm sort of checking the camera view to see if our angle's okay. So we're going to keep that as a fist kind of thing. So she's grabbing that. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. Okay. And we really want to get an indication here of her neck, because otherwise it looks like she's got some kind of freaking bull neck going on. And, you know, she's not a guy. She's a girl. Okay. So now I'm going to known to the unknown, right? So keep this loose. Okay, that's not bad. Cool. All right. So the only thing left here, and by the way, I think these guys need to be higher. Let's just go ahead and do it this way. She's doing a lot of yelling in this scene. She's yelling a lot, but hey, that's cool. So now what I want to do is try to restore her back to her normal look, which is her eyes are somewhat on the wide side. You know, and big-ish. Look at me making faces. Yeah, this is where she's basically saying, "Doesn't anybody ever knock around here?" Or something to that effect. It's not completely pinned down. Well, the thing about it is, I've written quite a few screenplays in my time. And I find writing comedy and writing dialogue to be fairly easy. So I don't necessarily need to worry about what the exact wording is going to be, because I know when the time comes to get it all pinned down that it's going to be fine. That's just, you know, that wouldn't be the right approach for everybody. Some people would want to probably plan ahead more completely, but in this case, I know what I can get away with, kind of thing. Okay, and so I think you would have this kind of thing going on. And we'll go ahead and let the exaggerated character shine through here a little bit. Okay, so she's actually got wide eyes and a cranky attitude, kind of a lot in this scene. But, I mean, who can blame her? If you had 5 ninjas and Mr. Big all show up in your room in the middle of the night, you know, you might be a redneck. I mean, you might think, well, that you object to that. Am I right? Am I right? I think you would. Okay. Let's go back to the camera view. Hello, camera view. Okay, so the only issue here is I think that her head is slightly large, actually. Not much, actually. I keep saying actually, don't I? Boom, 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 boom. Okay. So he clunks their heads together, lets them fall, and she's like, oh, Zen, thank goodness. Well, it serves you guys right. Oops. Doesn't anybody ever knock around here? Okay, so that's the basic concept. And it's been an hour, so this is good. As you all know, there'll be more later.